This podcast is produced by the Harwood Productions Podcast Network. To learn more about the network and to find more of our shows, visit us online at www.harwoodpodcast.com.
Hi, I'm Cindy Harris. It's summertime and there's lots of great fruits and vegetables available. Welcome to the Farmers Market Gourmet. Well, this summer at the farmer's market, there's just a ton of fresh vegetables available. So I've decided to get some fresh beans, some little cremini mushrooms, there's some little baby bok choy, some great crookneck squash, and look at these heirloom tomatoes. Let's go home and I'll make up my farmer's market pasta primavera. Now, I always start by getting my water boiling. I put a little bit of salt in the water, and then I get my pasta going. Now, this pasta dish has so many fresh veggies in it that you don't need a ton of pasta, but I use about a half a pound, and just use whatever you have. If you want to use spaghetti, fettuccine, I'm using these little gemellis. Whatever you've got on hand will work fine. One of the things I love about this dish, besides that it tastes so good, is it uses any of the fresh veggies I have in the garden or that I find down at the farmer's market. Today I found some beans. I had a few in the garden, but not enough, so I bought some more down at the farmer's market. And I've just cleaned them and snapped the ends off and put them in a little bowl and set those to the side. Then I also found some of this great broccoli rabe. It's a great green that you can find at the market. And what I do with that is I just cut it into like 2 or 3 inch pieces. And I'm going to take and put that in the bowl with the beans as well. What I'm doing is in this little bowl, I'm putting anything that I'm going to need to parboil. And one of the other items I found were these little baby bok choys. And again, with the bok choy, you have that woody end at the bottom and the leafy end at the top. So I'm just going to cut that more woody end off, put that with the beans and the broccoli rabe, and then I'm going to cut the leafy part off, but I'm going to keep that separate. Now next I'm going to get my mushrooms ready. I like to get all my veggies ready at once. And down at the market they had these great little cremini mushrooms which are just like a little baby portobello. So I've brushed those off and I'm just going to cut them in half because they have so much water in them. To slice them they turn into nothing, and I do want those bits of mushroom in this pasta dish. So cutting them in half will be fine. Now, I also love these great orange and yellow and red bell peppers. So they had a pretty orange one. So for that, I'm just going to take it, seed it, and cut it into sort of medium-sized pieces. Again, not too fine. I want these vegetables to really show up when I put them in with the pasta. I also picked up a couple of these little yellow crookneck squash because one of the other things with this dish is I'm looking for all kinds of color. So what I do with those is I just slice them into these little half circles, and that way they'll cook nice and evenly. If I had them in too big a chunk, they may not cook through. So if you slice them like this, that'll work out fine. Now, another part of this dish, regardless of what other kind of veggies you use, are some tomatoes. They give great color, but I don't want all that water in them. So what I do is I just cut them in half and I squeeze that juice out, and then I just cut the rest of them into medium-sized bits. One of the things with tomatoes is it can really water down your sauce, and we don't want that. We want the taste and we want the color, but we don't want all the water. And the last thing I want to get ready is my basil. And I'm just going to take about 12 leaves of basil and I'm going to roll them up and cut them really, really thin into this chiffonade. And I'm going to set that aside. That won't go in till the very last minute. Now that my veggies are ready, I'm going to get the biggest saute pan I have, and I'm going to put a couple of tablespoons of butter and a couple of tablespoons of olive oil on medium-high heat. Now, while the butter's melting, I've got about 2 minutes left till my pasta is done. So at that point, I take all those other veggies, the woody ones, the beans and the broccoli and the bok choy, and I put that in the water for the last 2 minutes so that they can parboil and get nice and tender. Now my butter is just about melted, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in 2 cloves of garlic that I've minced up here. And then I like to add a little red pepper flakes, so I'm going to add about 1/4 teaspoon or just a little palmful. And I'm just going to kind of mix that up. I don't want the garlic to burn, but I want it to flavor that oil as well as with those red pepper flakes. So after about 4 minutes or so, it'll be bubbly like this. And then I'm going to take all of my little mushrooms and I'm going to put those in. I'm going to want to saute those for, about 8 minutes. You don't have to stir them constantly, but just keep them moving in the pan and keep an eye on them. Now the timer's gone off for my pasta and my vegetables that I've parboiled, so I'm just going to take them and dump them into a colander in the sink, but don't run any cold water on them. Now my mushrooms are looking fantastic. They're nice and browned. So now I'm going to take some of my softer vegetables, the sliced squash and the bell pepper, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to saute those for about another 4 minutes and get them browning. Then I'm going to put any of the leafy stuff. For this, it's the bok choy. And I'm going to put in 1/2 cup of dry wine. I like to use a Sauvignon Blanc when I cook. And you'll notice that starts to steam, which is great because I've got this on a medium-high heat, and that will really help those leafy vegetables start to wilt. And I'd let that go, just for about 2 or 3 minutes. Then it's time to put in my diced tomatoes. And I'm going to put 1/2 cup of heavy cream in. That's going to be kind of adding to the sauce here. And what I do is I turn that now down to medium. And I'm going to let all that new liquid kind of simmer with those vegetables. Now here's our first layer of seasoning. I'm going to put in a little bit of salt, and then I'm going to put some fresh pepper in. Now we're going to test this again later, but this is the first level of that. And again, just give it a nice stir. We should have a little rolling simmer here. That's what we're going for. Now, after about 4 minutes or so, to brighten this up, we're going to put 1½ tablespoons of fresh lemon juice, and then our little basil leaves that we chiffonade. We're going to put all of those in there. And again, we just want to keep this warm. And so then on my pasta and my other vegetables that I parboiled, they're ready. So I'm going to take and put them right into this big saute pan. That's why you have to use a really big one to hold all of this. Then I like to switch to my tongs. I find that I can really control this nicely, and I just go ahead and I start mixing and mixing, and I get all that sauce and those veggies and pasta all mixed up together. Again, right now this is just on a warm heat. Now once things are pretty well mixed up, we're going to go ahead and put some more black pepper on here, and you may want to taste and see if it needs any more salt. Veggies and pasta kind of require a little bit of seasoning, so make sure to taste it before you put it on the table for your family. I found this needed a teeny bit more salt, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now and give it a really good stir. Well, this pasta Primavera is such a great summertime pasta dish, and you can use any kind of veggies you can get your hands on. Just pass a little Parmesan cheese, and I think your friends and family are just going to love it. Enjoy! Thanks so much for joining me today. You can go to our website at www.harwoodpodcast.com to find all the recipes for today's show. And also, if you have any questions or comments for me, go ahead and send me an email. I'll see you next time.